G'day guys, this is Rick from Tips and Ratings, just bringing you a preview of a couple of races tonight from Moonee Valley, the Sunline Stakes in the William Reid. Looks a good night of racing tonight at the Valley, so we'll get into it. We'll start with the mares race, the Sunline Stakes. Star Fashion is the number one horse here. Look, at resumed dialogue with a pretty good run first up at Flemington. There wasn't really a lot of tempo in that race, and we've obviously seen Scratchy Bottom, who finished last, come out and win. Nardine West won on Saturday. Certainly this is a step up from that grade, but she's a horse, Star Fashion, that has been competitive with Suavito in the past, including beating her first up last prep, and on her night she's pretty good. However, tonight I just sort of think that she's just a little bit too short, and I'm not sure how she's going to probably get around the Valley. But on talent, she's certainly got talent. I just sort of think she should be close to $12. Marianne, she was very good last start behind Noble Protector. She obviously returned to PB in my book, and it was quite a good run. She obviously beat the rest, but she was beaten 4.5 lengths by Noble Protector, and it's very difficult to see her turning the tables tonight. So I can understand why the market sort of got her a little bit shorter, but I've sort of got a couple of others just a little bit ahead of her. Onto Girl in Flight, I thought that she was the big run out of the Madam Gangster race. She had the best big late close, and looks to be back in really good order. If we sort of look through her form, second up 2 campaigns ago, she produced her best speed rating of 118, which was behind Solicit and Marianne. And then second up last campaign, she produced her best class figure when she was beaten 2.5 lengths by Sweet Idea. So second up tonight, coming off that really good first up run, I think we're going to see the best of her, and I think she's the danger. I think she can run really well tonight. She can get a little bit too far back at times though, which doesn't help, but she looks to be the closer that is likely to probably challenge Noble Protector. Onto Noble Protector, and just a sensational run first up. Smashed them. It was just such a dominant win. Obviously, when you're that dominant first up, there's a chance that you can race flat second up. If it sort of races 4 lengths flat and Marianne races, up to its best, it's still got Marianne by half a length. So, it's sort of, despite being a chance of racing a little bit flat, it's still got 4 or 5 lengths on them. So it's clearly on top for me. Got it at $1.80. Had it sort of been without a danger of being flat, you could sort of make a case for it to be a bit shorter, probably where the market's got it at. So I think it'll be very hard to beat, just a little bit of caution around it, but it could probably drop off and still be too good. And I'd expect that it's probably just going to shoot through and lead easily. Onto La Amistad. Look, we know a fair bit about this mare. She's been well highlighted. She generally hasn't really ran terribly first up or fresh or anything like that. But whether she's able to produce her best against this field is a little debatable, and one that at this stage I'm probably happy to work around. It wouldn't surprise me to see this horse running on well. But probably out over a little bit further is what's required for this horse to be a strong winning chance in this grade. Precious Gem's going really well. I think that she's won a couple here at Moonee Valley, always races well here. just sort of lining her up though against Marianne and Noble Protector. It's very hard to see her turn the tables on those two runs. So look, I'm sure she'll run quite well again, but she just doesn't look up to it. On to Digger Pony, and look, I think this horse can run quite well. I think that its current price of 40 to 1, 30 to 1, it sort of is probably the best long shot for me. I thought that it sort of ran on fairly in that Madam Gangster race, and if we track her form back to Caulfield third up last prep when she first got out to a mile, she wasn't beaten all that far by Star Fashion. So she's sort of around the mark. Oliver goes on. She does need to lift considerably, but her pattern of racing does suggest that she does go quite well third up, and she's best at a mile. So we'll probably see the best of her tonight. But whether it's quite good enough, I'm not quite sure. But I think 40 to 1's big. On to Jacinta, who comes through a few Canberra runs. Look, we sort of know a fair bit about her. She's pretty well exposed, and probably the best thing in her favour is the jockey. It's quite hard to sort of see her getting anywhere near the others. She has got a 3-length defeat behind Girl Guide, but she sort of Group 2 looks a bit tough for her. She's sort of a mare that we've got pegged in the a rating 70 to 80, and this looks a bit hard. On to Jacinta, Entertains, and look, this one's going quite well. I think that it came through that really hard race, 2 starts back in Sydney behind the Doraville. Then it backed up last week behind Scratchy Bottom, was sort of only beaten a couple of lengths and sprinted quite well. Obviously, we get a line through Scratchy Bottom with horses like Girl in Flight and whatnot. So, it does get tricky. You do have to draw the line somewhere on how to line them up. And I sort of think that I'm sort of happy to work around her tonight. $16 she's at the moment. We've got her 26. So from a percentage term, there's not really a great deal between that, despite the fact it's $10. And she's certainly going well. So I think she can run well, but it's just a little bit too short. And on to the last runner there, which is Tully Costa. And, this horse, when it resumed, it was quite ordinary. And I think that needs to lift significantly. So I've graded the horse favourably on its last half a dozen runs, and it's come out at a huge price. It's got no hope, so the horse can't win. So just to recap the Sunline Stakes, Noble Protector clearly is the one to beat. It's a clear top raider. We've got it marked $1.80, which I think is about right, coming off that big first up run. If there was no queries of if it would be flat or anything like that, probably the market's got it right. At this stage, the market's around 120, 125%. Will it creep out to $1.80? It may well. But look, if it sort of can back up what it did first up, it's going to be very difficult to beat. And I think Girl in Flight is the main danger, who will be a sharp improver and goes well second up, and Digger Pony, who may be the best, sort of out at 30 to 40 to 1. I think can go in your exotics and may be able to run into third or fourth and provide a bit of value there. So on to the William Reid, and looks a really good race. There certainly is a race that's lacking, any of the real standouts, but we do have a couple of horses here that are going quite well and have gone well in the past. So we're sort of looking at our benchmark spring form here, and we get to the likes of Terra Vista and Chautauqua and Lankan Rupee, Buffering. So they're sort of been the benchmark horses for these good races over the last few years, and we'll start with Rebel Dane. Obviously, last campaign, he certainly wasn't beaten far in all 4 runs. He was beaten half a length by Sweet Idea first up. She obviously was a super winner on the weekend. And then we've got form around buffering Lankan Rupee, Angelic Light. So that really is the benchmark form, and certainly is the superior class line. And we sort of know that this horse can run a pretty decent time and a strong sectional. So, he sort of ranks highly right up there on class and speed for us. And he's come out around $3.80. I think he'll get a good run. He'll be advantaged by the way the race pans out, and he certainly looks value in our book. I think the 550 is a good price. On to Famous Seamus. You can sort of get a line through him also through some of those races last year. He has been exposed though this year, and he ran fairly, I thought, first up behind Miracles of Life. He didn't have a lot of luck at some stages. The reality is, when he returned, his run now, looking back at it, he sort of just finished in front of Moss Fun, who was just okay on the weekend. He couldn't beat Rubik, who was fair. So, look, I'm not sure the horse is back in the type of order he was last year, and I'm happy to work around him tonight. On the Bella Sprinter, very hard horse to line up this one. He was okay, I thought, in the Oakley Plate, and we know what we get with him. He's going to drop out to last and be unlucky, or drop out to last and win. So I've sort of got him 50s, and I think he's sort of creeping out to that price. So he's probably around the mark and worth a little, speckle of those odds, but he's no more. On to Fontalina. Look, this horse has had a year off. He's had 4 trials. Since his last run, 3 of them have been recent, and we sort of can get a line through this horse. His last run at Moonee Valley, he was nosed out in a Group 1, won by Spirit of Boom. It's probably a couple of lengths, 2-3 lengths below the quality of the Rebel Dane and Angelic Light figures that we're sort of looking at. And I think that this horse can run quite well. Whether or not he can pull off the heist to sort of get it first up, I'm not sure. He does have the form that tracks back well and ties in through those runners, but I sort of prefer to see him tonight. Lucky Hustler's going to run quite well, I think. I think this horse may be in for his best campaign. I sort of track his form back through his first up runs in Queensland. He's got a really strong speed rating back on the 7th of December 2013. It is a while ago though, at Doomben, when he won quite well, and he sort of hasn't been able to do anything like that fresh since, but he has had a change of stable, and we finally got to the bottom of him, and he was obviously narrowly beaten in the Emirates, and had pretty good form going in through that campaign. So I think this horse is very capable of running a huge race. Wouldn't be surprised to see him win it all, but he can end up too far back. So just where he gets from that gate, barrier 2, he may well end up just in a pretty bad spot. So I think we sort of factored that in a little bit. We got him around $14, and currently he's at $11 on the markets. He may get out a little bit more, close to our point. Had he been able to take up a better position, I'd probably have him half the price. Onto It Is Written, and this horse is going quite well. I've got him marked $26. He's about 31, so he represents a bit of value. He has been up for a while. He gets around Moonee Valley really well. He's tried his luck at Group 1 before, and he's always just fallen a little bit short. There's certainly no improvement in him tonight, and I sort of think that he does need to lift, a length or two to sort of, really match it with those good horses, and whether or not he he can do that, I'm not quite sure. But he certainly always performs quite well at Moonee Valley, and I think he looks to be in quite well, and I'd expect that he'll run quite well tonight, few at odds. On the way, Angelic Light, and she's our equal favourite with Rebel Dame. If we sort of look back at those runs at Moonee Valley last year, it's hard to split them. And I think going in with both of them on a level playing field sits well with us. Oliver goes on. She's drawn well. She's going to map up really well. Obviously, she gets around the valley well, and she is a mare that has always, despite only winning once first up, she's always performed quite well. So she has to win here first up at 1200, which is never easy. But just sort of looking at her, I think that she's certainly going to run quite well, and just the run she's going to get, she's going to be very hard to beat. On to Vain Queen, and she ran quite well, I thought, in the Oakley Plate. She probably could have finished a bit closer. Look, the beauty of Vain Queen, I think, is that she's sort of by, I guess, trial and error or luck, she can sort of race up on the speed or take a sit, and sort of from this barrier with Nicholas Hall on board, I just sort of wonder if they're going to try and take a sit here somewhere midfield. And certainly if they do that and she's able to get the breaks, she's certainly got a devastating finish on her, and I can certainly see her as being one of the runners presenting up on the turn and finishing off really powerfully. And I think that she needs a high level of respect here, and she's our third raider. She's marked 750, and currently she's around $7 on the market. If we sort of look at her TAB, so it's opened up 550, out to 6, out to 650, out to 7, into 650. So that sort of mark around $7, it looks like that's where there's a little bit of interest. So we'll monitor her. Onto Briante, and look, it was a good winner up in Sydney last start. I think that this horse is in for a really good campaign. It's got race plates on for the first time. It was a really strong win. I do have her as a better horse over further, 1400 to a mile. So I'm pretty keen to see her get out in trip. I think she can run quite well. But I think these just might be a little bit too good for her. But certainly she's one that you should mark down in your black book to follow over further in coming weeks. On to Girl Guide. Look, she comes through the Madam Gangster race. We know how good that form is. I guess the problem with her is where is she going to get from that gate? And she has been quite poor query. Certainly you can make a case that she should be a lot shorter than what we've got her marked. But to do that, I'd have to go back to the start of 2014, and so far this campaign she really hasn't shown that she's at that level. So these types of horses can bounce back to that level and make you look a bit silly and knock you off, and she's certainly a horse that could do that to us tonight, but you do need to draw the line somewhere. And despite the fact that I think it's going to be a really strong race going forward, that Madam Gangster form line, as I said earlier, we have seen Nadine Weiss and Scratchy Bottom come through that run. I'm happy to work against her tonight. On to Perron, and look, Perron resumed with a really good run first up. I thought that it was a really, big, strong finish. We've seen Chloe in Paris sort of come out and be competitive last start on the weekend behind Sweet Idea. And this sort of horse, we know that she's got a high level of talent on her day. She has drawn barrier 1, which is a bit of a concern, and her pattern sort of does suggest that it's pretty likely that she's going to be buried back on the fence, and she's going to need a fair bit of luck. And by the time that luck comes, you know, the other horses may have bolted by then, and we're happy to sort of work around her tonight, but we're not knocking her talent. Galaxy Pegasus is a hard horse to sort of line up for me. He, you know, he's an inconsistent type. He wins by a lot, loses by a lot. I thought his run first up was quite good. I sort of thought that Rommel would run quite well up in the Guineas, but he obviously got injured. So, look, I think this horse is outclassed tonight. I think that he needs a bit easier. I wouldn't be surprised over to see some good improvement, but he's sort of one that looks too short. On the Worthquake, and look, I thought she ran pretty well in the Oakley Plate, considering the speed, you know, she was up against. Whether or not she can turn the tables on the likes of Vain Queen, who was pretty luckless, you know, that sort of remains to be seen. She also needs to turn the tables on it. It's written. I thought her run last start was much better. She fought on quite well. You know, she did have a nice run in transit though, and you know, she sort of, we've got her marked to her best here in our book, and you know, her best makes her a $26 chance, and you know, she looks unders for us. So 650 is way too short. You know, she may turn it around, but we're sort of happy to work against her tonight. And on the Vaselet, who, look, you know, this horse came through a pretty hard race 2 starts ago. They went quite hard in that race, won by Written Dash, and then I thought it ran pretty well out to 1,400 metres. It's probably suited back to 1,200 here, I think, and I think that it's going to run along, and it can probably fight on and stay in this race for quite some time. But it does appear to just be a little bit too short at this stage. We've got it 40 to 1, which is about where it is Betfair, and it's $26, $31 across the book. So I'd expect that this horse will probably be one of the ones that drifts out, but certainly, you know, it can probably run quite well and give a really good sight. So just to recap, if you're looking to just sort of have a couple of bets, I think that the market's pretty right here, and I think that Rebel Dane and Angelic Light are way to go, and despite the fact that they're equal favourites, I still think the 5.50 is good value. And if you wanted to back a couple of horses, they're probably the two that I think are you know, the way to go. Just back those two, and they should give you a really good run for your money. Vain Queen's probably the main danger. She's a little bit short at the moment on the markets, and you know, if we're sort of looking for the best value, we don't really have one, because the value looks to be tied up between Rebel Dane and Angelic Light. So at this stage, they're our top raters, and they also represent the best value for your money. So I'd suggest they're the way to go. So all the best with your bets tonight. Good luck, and hopefully you can find some winners.